still publicly calls for death to America. And we do this all the time. We send hundreds of billions of dollars around the world to states that fund terrorism. We need to stop doing that. If we stop doing that, we can start getting control on the terrorist problem we have.
Kurt, anything in response to that?
Colm's talked about the Iran anti-nuclear agreement. It was the top priority of the Israeli community, top priority of our foreign diplomats, was to curb one of the big sponsors of terrorism, which Iran is, from getting nuclear weapons. We were able to do that. We've stopped them from getting nuclear weapons. We've actually you're completely wrong again, nothing personal, but we've actually delegitimized all their sites of nuclear proliferation. The centrifuges are no longer there. We've taken their heavy water away from them. They are unable at this point in time, and frankly, I guess to Colm's point, if they decide, you can always break an agreement, right? Well, this agreement is so tight that it snaps back into place. All the restrictions go right back into place. All the sanctions automatically go back into place if only one of the participants raise the issue. Don't have to get agreement from Russia, China, Germany, England, but one participant, i.e. the United States, says, Iran, you've broken any aspects of that agreement, all those sanctions snap right back into place. But the top priority of our diplomatic community is to keep Iran from having nuclear weapons. Do we want another North Korea type of situation? No. We were successful.
It's just not true. In fact, if you Google it right now, you'll see there's news articles, top of the Google search, that shows how many times that Iran has broken the agreement since it's been passed. There's no anytime, anywhere inspections in the deal, which means the Iranian government has a say in when, where, and how international inspectors have access
Colm's
to its
completely
facilities.
wrong again, and I would recommend you get your news from someplace other than Google.
And if you look at, and he's talking about North Korea. North Korea is a perfect example, because we just did this a decade ago with North Korea, and everybody said the exact same thing. This is going to make sure that they never get a nuke. Well, here we are 10 years later, and what are we concerned about? We now know they have nukes.
We had no agreement with North Korea. And you're talking about nuclear weapons. I served in the Air Force and guarded missiles in Montana, and I got out in 1991, so that's been about 25 years. And I've been told that the infrastructure with nuclear weapons, the communication systems are all failing. Has there been any word at the national level to try to, our current nuclear force is now becoming dilapidated and crumbling, including the missile that we're supposed to deliver those. What's your thoughts on our own current nuclear systems?
Well, as I alluded to, I think we should spend more time in our country making sure our weapon systems and our homeland security is safe. We are spending way too much money overseas. The corruption overseas is rampant. I personally would not be getting involved in ventures in Afghanistan and Iraq. Bring our troops home, make sure they're safe, and put our money here. We need to have our European allies, our so-called allies in the Middle East, step up and make a greater contribution, not just in terms of money, but men on the boots on the ground, not our guys on the ground, but their guys on the ground, take ownership. That way we could go ahead and modernize our own weapon systems here in this country.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we have modern weapon systems that make sure that nuclear arsenal is safe and ready to be used if need be.
Thank you. All right. Well, I'm almost run out of questions that I can ask. Anybody have any other questions? I do have a couple more questions that I can ask. And to me, education is so important, and Oregon is lagging behind in graduation rates and funding. What can a congressman do for us locally to help maybe make some changes so we can bring career technical training back into high school, shop classes, and I know and understand, the sciences are very important, and we're lagging in increasing our pool of engineers, but unfortunately not all of our children aspire to be an engineer. So how can we both inspire kids, our children and families to maybe want to become an engineer, but also inspired to want to just learn some skills that they can support their family locally? Colm, I'll let you start.
Well, I think we need to focus on how much money we're spending on bureaucrats when it comes to education. Department of Education was started in the 70s. I haven't met a single person that thinks that education in Oregon has improved since the 1970s. I haven't met a single person. I mean, we spent literally billions of dollars paying bureaucrats, not teaching kids, not helping people get careers, and a lot of the stuff that we're focusing on doesn't actually help people, right? I mean, I talk to all sorts of kids. There's a whole bunch of kids that go through school and don't know how to balance a budget, don't know how to take care of a checkbook, don't know what Quicken is, don't know what an IRA is, right? I mean, these are like very fundamental basic things. Don't know how to price a mortgage. There's a lot of stuff that like our education system is just totally failing our kids. And we're spending literally, we pay, you know, the leaders of our schools, the superintendents, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I mean, what are we getting for it?
Thank you. Congressman.
Well, federal government plays a huge role in our education system, and Oregon's one of the more successful states in getting our fair share of money from the federal government, getting our tax dollars back to help support a lot of programs. There's a lot of special ed needs. I've been a strong advocate that the federal government should live up to its original agreement with the states and fund 30 to 40% of the special needs program, not 12 to 15%. That would free up a lot of general fund dollars that could be used here to great advantage in the different school districts. I'm also been a great proponent of career technical education. To Mark's point, not every kid's going to be going to college, four-year college anyway. There are great family wage jobs in a lot of the trade industries out there. A lot of folks my age are starting to retire. We need to replenish the working ranks for the younger folks to fill a lot of the critical needs. Also teachers, firefighters, policemen. Those are great jobs, frankly. We've been pushing the Pell Grants, trying to make sure that that's a big chunk of the education dollars that comes from the federal government, to make sure college is at least not totally unaffordable for kids. When I was in the state legislature, I sponsored legislation along with the governor to make sure that if kids worked a minimum wage job during the summer, part-time during the school year, that between the federal grants, the state grants, and scholarships, and hopefully a little family support if the family was engaged, those kids would graduate with little or no debt. And that's the type of approach we really need, beefing up these types of programs. Mark also referred to STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math. We reauthorize that every year, trying to draw a focus on that. I think we should put more money into that, not less, and to beef up our robotics programs. North Clackamas and other school districts have a very viable career and technical education program and robotics program. We need to put more money into those.
Thank you. Good timing. Almost there. Okay, a couple more questions, and we're going to give you a chance to summarize and have your closing remarks. Google and Facebook both control their markets at a far higher level than oil companies, railroads did in the early 1900s. Do you support applying antitrust laws against, or to kind of regulate Google and Facebook and those type of big, huge entities?
I don't know much about that aspect of things. I am worried in general with consolidation of different sectors of industries right now, whether it's in the high-tech industry, whether it's in the internet sites. I see it also in telephone and communications. You see it in a lot of the industries that we have out there. I'm very concerned that there's a great deal of consolidation. Where the problem, as I alluded to before, is we're getting into this global economy, and America and a lot of our businesses are facing some huge multinational global corporations that dwarf ours, and as such there's this consolidation. I think we need to look very strong like that, and I would support looking at making sure that these trusts are not monopolistic and reducing competition, thereby potentially raising prices for American or consumers around the world.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the issue here is there competition, or has the government created regulations or rules or subsidies to make it unfair so that it's nearly impossible for somebody to compete against the company? And in a situation where, like, the health insurance market is a problem, because of all the regulations, it's nearly impossible for a new player to start a new health insurance company. It's really hard, right? So you have government-created monopolies, essentially. In the tech industry, it's a little bit different. And an example of this is Intel. Intel's a big player when it comes to making computer chips, right? But it's still a free market. And so when Intel misses a cycle, like they missed the cell phone innovations, they got beat. And they're still not the big player when it comes to cell phone chips, right? And so it's not necessarily how big is the company, it's how competitive is the market. And if it's competitive and the governments aren't using their power to keep people out of the market, then you're going to keep having innovation and you're going to keep having progress. So that's really the question. The question isn't how big is the company, it's how competitive is the market.
Great, thank you. Okay, well, thank you everybody for your patience and your great questions and great responses and good information. I'd like to start, Congressman Schrader, with your closing remarks. And you have 5 minutes. You don't have to use them all, but use them wisely.
Well, again, thank you so much for having Colm and I here. It's always good to get a sense of what other questions people have, what are people concerned about. And I appreciate your support in all the past elections. Look forward to your support in this election. You need someone that has walked in your shoes and knows what it's like to be a business person or a family person trying to raise a family that has experience in both those areas. I'm the only candidate in this race that has experience like that. You want someone that knows how to be effective, and I have been effective. Colm's referred to that. I mean, the reason the NOAA fleet is in Newport is because of me, and we're seeing huge economic resurgence in the Central Oregon coast. Similarly, the helicopters were a threat that be taken away out of the Central Oregon coast, which is life-saving opportunities for folks that visit our coast. That's there because of the work that I did. Same thing with the transportation infrastructure. Here in the valley, Sunrise Corridor, 205, going to be seeing and have seen some improvements as a result of the work we've done. We continually work with the other side of the aisle, and that's so important. The reason we don't have comprehensive immigration reform or debt reduction is because of the Republicans in the House. If you want to double down on not getting those things across the aisle, elect my opponent. You know, we're having trouble because these people are too extreme and not willing to look at both sides of the issue. We need people that have have a proven track record of actually getting things done. And I gave you a litany of some of the great projects we've done to make sure that the schools, again, come back and are under the province of our parents, our teachers, our school districts run them, not someone from Washington, D.C. The transportation bill is huge. We've been trying for years, long before I came to Congress, to get a long-term transportation bill. We got that. That's jobs right now. That's our ability to compete going into the future, frankly. So if you want someone that's been effective, that shares your values of shared prosperity, creating opportunities and personal responsibility, I'd ask for your vote again in November.
Thank you. Colm.
Well, I've traveled all across the districts, and increasingly I meet people that are cynical about our leaders in Washington. And I don't blame them. Frankly, our leaders haven't been honest with us. They say that we have full employment. But all you have to do is drive through the district and see all the empty buildings where businesses used to be to know that's not true. There are hundreds of thousands of Oregonians that our government says are fully employed, who have to rely on food stamps at the end of every month in order to feed their families. Our leaders say we don't have any serious inflation. When it comes to the basic necessities of our lives, housing, healthcare, education, our costs have skyrocketed. Kurt says that Congress is pretty functional, and it's not as broken as people think. But I guess it depends on your perspective. 8 years ago, when he first took office, our average income was higher. A higher percentage of Oregonians were working. Fewer Oregonians were on food stamps. Our healthcare costs were lower. Our traffic wasn't as bad. And we still had a port where our small businesses could ship things out of state. Over the last 8 years, our jobs have gone away, our income has gone down, our education system stagnated, our traffic's gotten worse, and our small businesses have closed. So maybe in Washington, D.C., Congress seems pretty functional. But for a lot of people here in Oregon, Congress hasn't been effective at all. In fact, a lot of what Congress has done has been harmful. Kurt says he's a bipartisan problem solver who works across the aisle to get things done. But on every major issue of consequence, he votes with the bosses of his party. Trans-Pacific Partnership, Obamacare, cap and trade, the stimulus. He was an early endorser and superdelegate for Hillary Clinton, who's a corrupt Wall Street Democrat and one of the most untrustworthy people that has ever run for president. And what's important here is he didn't reluctantly support her at the end of the primaries when she became the nominee. He endorsed her a year ago. Hillary Clinton was his first choice to be our next president. And more importantly than that, he stopped being an advocate for you. Kurt, for the first 6 years that he was our congressman, he used to come back and talk about how important it was that he was on the Ag Committee and he was working on the Farm Bill. And he was right. Agriculture is really important. But last year he left the Ag Committee And when asked about it, he said it was because his job was done there. They passed the farm bill. But I can tell you that a lot of the farmers in the district aren't buying it, even if some of the ag lobbyists back east are. And the reason they're not buying it is because they know that right now there's already talk of a 2017 ag bill. Sorry, 2017 farm bill. And they know that if we don't have a seat at that table, then California and Florida and Texas and Iowa are going to dominate that conversation at the expense of our farmers. I'm a Republican, but I'm an Oregonian first. And if the Republicans in Congress push something that's going to hurt you and your family, I'm going to fight against it. There are times when party loyalty asks too much. My first loyalty is to you, my friends and neighbors here in Western Oregon. I'm not perfect, but I will always tell you the truth. Even if it hurts my election, and even if it embarrasses my party. At the very least, you deserve a congressman who tells you the truth. And there may be times when we disagree. Most of the time, I think we're going to agree. But even when we disagree, you'll always know that I'm doing everything in my power to stand up for you. So if you think that Obamacare has been a pretty good thing, if you think it's lowered your health care costs and helped your small business, if you think the Iran deal has made you safer, and if you think that the TPP is not going to destroy jobs here in Oregon, and if you think that Congress is working pretty well, then you should vote for Kirk. But if you feel left behind, and if you think that you deserve a congressman who gets up every day and fights for you and your family just like you do, then I need your vote. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's thank our two candidates this morning. Thank you. And on behalf of the North Clackamas Chamber, I want to thank everybody for attending today, including our candidates.